it is Crafty Kita, and today I'm going to do a quick tutorial on changing the ink on a Epson 7820. So I have the Epson 7820 for my sublimation print, and it prints great. It goes up to 13 by 19, and so I'm able to do wide format printing with it. But unfortunately, because it's not a true sublimation printer, I do have to change ink and refill my cartridges over and over. So I do have the refill cartridges. The Epson 7820 comes with normally the Epson inks 812 XL and the 812 regular for the color, the cyan, the magenta, and the yellow. Anyway, so here is the refillable ink cartridges. I brought these online, and it does not have a chip on it here, right? So the chip here comes off of the normal Epson ink here. So what normally has to be done every time I have to change ink, so my sublimation ink doesn't come out, and as you see, my cartridge is pretty full with my yellow ink, but my printer was reading that I don't have any yellow ink because, again, I'm using the chip off of the Epson ink. So the Epson ink reads this as normal ink. It reads it. It lets me know, hey, I've used as many uses as I'm able to use on this particular chip, and it will stop print from that point. Now, my sublimation ink may be full as I don't know what inside of my, here on the side, it may be full inside of the cartridge itself, but the chip itself will have gone out and have ran out of its uses. So every so often, depending on how often I have a job or how often I'm actually in here teaching myself or either just doing tutorials, I have to go out and I have to go purchase some more ink each time, and I have to add a new chip so that I can go back and use my printer. So having a 7840, the printers are cheap. They are available in stores a lot of the times. I brought mine from Best Buy. Excuse me. But when it comes down to changing my ink, I have to constantly purchase a chip. So in today's video, real quick, I am going to show you how to change the ink. And if you have never seen a refill process, I will show how to refill as well. So let me go ahead and just show you first on how to change the cartridge. It's a very simple process, and it's not really the cartridge, it's the chip. It's a very simple process, and let me just show you real quick here on my printer. I don't know if you're able to see it. Oh, there we go. So here's my printer. My printer is telling me that I need to change, so I've already started the process somewhat with the printer's ink here, and we're going to go ahead and change the black one. So just watch here as I take it out. Excuse me, and then the chip piece tends to slide off. So that's what we're going to do first. Just a moment. Okay, so we've taken the ink out of the cartridge, out of the printer, and here is the ink cartridge again, regular refillable cartridge. It lets you know what color it should come on, is labeled. But again, it does come empty, so I did have to fill in the ink myself. And then here is the chip. So now in this case, this will be our bad chip. And I'm just going to slide this piece right back on. It does slide on. And I am going to have to use my two hands in just a second. So I do need to get this piece back on shortly. There we go. So here we have it on. And now I'm just literally just going to pull off this old chip. And we're going to throw this one away. This way we don't get that one lost, or confused. And then I'm going to show you how we do this. So here is the Epson 812 XL. It is the regular standard ink. There is ink inside of it. It does read naturally into the printer. Excuse me there. Had a little tug of war. Okay, so then what I do is I go ahead, I get my scissors or something pointy, and we're going to literally bring it to the bottom of the ink cartridge here, right at the right at the chip here, and we're going to put the point of the scissor right under it, and we're going to go under the ink, I keep calling it ink, the disc, We're going to go right here under the chip, and it lifts right up. Now we've taken the chip off, and this here is no more use to us because we're not going to use regular ink in our printers. All I needed was the chip here, very tiny. You have to be careful. You barely see it in my hand, sorry. You have to be careful because the chip can get lost if you drop it fast. Excuse me. So right back here to the front, if you see here, there's a small little notch there, and a small piece was there as well, but it was hard to get the chip back on with the small piece on, so I just cut with my knife the little plastic piece off so that I can slide the chip in. The chip does have a hole here right at the top and a little slice here. So that little piece that I cut off, it all fits in perfectly. We're just going to go ahead and just put this chip and slide it right back in. And actually, I'm going to let the indented piece go to the top there. So I'll take it off again and show it. This indented piece here is going to go right here on the piece that's sticking out. If I turn it to the side, you can see it here. This piece here is sticking out. We're going to slide the indented piece right up under it and push down. Again, under and push. And the chip is up there. And it doesn't have, it is secure. It doesn't have to be glued or anything. You just push it in and that's that. Now, if you can see, my ink here is not all the way full. And again, if you heard me mention that the chip only reads as the normal ink. So it's pretty much on a timer. And that timer is going to, you know, after the number of runs go down, then it's automatically going to cut out. But it's not going to really truly read the ink that I have inside my cartridge. So it is best to go ahead and to refill while I'm here. So since I'm doing this here, I'm going to also show you quickly on how to refill. So on the top here is where this little rubber stopper was at the top of the cartridge. And that's the spot that I am going to refill the ink at. So where it says push, right above it is a little rubber stopper. I'm going to take the stopper out, and I'm also going to put it into the next hole just so that we, well, excuse me, into the bottom hole, just so that we don't get any air here. If you notice in the back of here, this is our little ventilation trap area here. We don't want any ink in the back of the cartridge, but we will allow for the ink to go into here, into the full cartridge itself. And let's go ahead and do that. So today, for this particular demonstration, we're going to use Cosmo ink. This is really like kind of my second time actually putting Cosmo ink in. I've had the package for a while, but because I've had so much of the other ink, I wanted to wait till the ink that I originally brought ran out before I had to go back to use the Cosmo ink. If you watch any of my videos, you will always hear me say I am not about losing money. So again, today we're going to use Cosmo ink. It is the kind of, I want to say maybe the #1 sublimation ink out there on the market. Honestly, I'm starting to feel like, or realize that sometimes it may not always be about the ink, but sometimes more about the paper. Others may disagree, but at this point, I haven't had too much concern about the ink that I use, more so of the paper. I've noticed a difference in a lot of the papers, but I haven't noticed too much in my ink just yet. So hopefully I'll see a difference with doing and using the Cosmo ink today. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to use Cosmo ink, and we are going to refill. So now I have a 10 milliliter syringe. It has the adjustable or removable needle here, and I'm getting ink all over my hands, but we're going to just tighten the needle on top of the syringe. And in this case, the Cosmo ink bottle opens all the way up, as you see. Now that is a little bit for me because I tend to be a little clumsy. So this case here, we're just going to hold on to this really tightly because I don't want to mess up my carpet. But we're going to stick the syringe straight into the ink. And I'm just going to slowly pull. And I say slowly because I have it open, I don't want the needle to come out of the ink and get any air into the syringe, and so that we don't get air into the cartridge. Because if you get air in your cartridge and the air goes into your printer, you have a mess on your hands trying to get that fixed. I have replaced my printer a few times because I've gotten air, or because I wasn't getting replacing the ink and refilling as often as I needed to, and then it will it's almost like seizing your engine. You know, when your oil goes out of your car and you have no more oil in your car, then you will seize your engine. So it's just like your printer. You know, here, if you don't have any ink in your cartridge, but you still have that cartridge in your printer, the air gets in and then it blocks. It puts a blockage inside of your inside the tubing or whatever, how to call it. I'm sorry, I don't know the technical terms of that, but I do know if you do get air into that printer, it is very hard to go through, because it's the pressure, and it's just a lot. So you can mess up your printer that way. But either way, let's go ahead and let's refill this ink cartridge. So the ink here looks like it's about halfway through. So I doubt I'm going to need this whole 10 milliliters here, the mLs. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the needle straight into the hole. We're going to put it in at an angle, and we're not trying to force it down. We're going to put it into an angle, and then we're just going to start pushing in slowly. And I don't know if you can see it filling up. There it goes. So I'm slowly pushing in, not trying to force it, letting it come up. And it is going pretty fast. But as it gets to the top, I just don't want it to overflow. Okay, and if you notice that one side, I'm going to try to tilt it down some as well so we can get it to go in and not come back to that spot. So I put the whole 10 mLs in. It did not bother us there. And I don't look like I have any air in it. But to be on the safe side, you can always prime your ink cartridge. And that's something that I tend to do every time that I refill my ink now. So in order to prime it, we're going to go ahead and take the needle off the syringe, but still use the syringe today. We're going to take the syringe and we're going to stick it back in that same hole with no air in it. Okay, this is like trying to become a vacuum. So we're going to put the ink cartridge, and I'm sorry, as I say, I'm accident prone. My hands get right dirty and messy in this process. But we're going to put this in here and we're going to pull. Okay, we're going to slowly pull, and you see how it's just coming, and it's just air coming out. No ink is coming with it. I'm going to take it off and I'm going to release that air. Just like that. No ink came out. It didn't vacuum itself. So since it didn't vacuum and try to suction everything back in, that means there's air inside my cartridge here. So again, I'm going to pull again. Watching, pulling. Now you see that ink come up with it. That's a good sign. So see how fast it went back in? It vacuumed. And if you notice, the air that was left stayed in my syringe. So there's no more, it vacuumed itself, and the ink that was able to survive or push itself back in, went back in, and it left the air for me. So we should be good. I'm going to put it one more time over here. And typically you want to push back in. If any ink, you're going to just put it back into your bottle. I tend to release it over here on a cloth so that the ink can absorb into the cloth, and that the, just to release the air out and that we don't get the ink all over the floor. So I'm going to try this one more time. Again, it should pull up the ink the same way it did. It should release the ink back into the bottle, and that air should be out at this point. Let's go one more time, and there we go. We're slowly letting it back in. Disconnect. Oh, you heard that pop. That's a breaking of the seal. I'm going to try this one more time. It don't look like we have like I said, let's see. And you have to make sure that you're taking the syringe off before you let the air back in, because again, there we go, getting air bubbles in. Trying to pull again. Oh, I'm out of camera, I'm sorry. But here we go. Pulling. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put this back here in the front. And then I am just going to slide this back in to the printer. And it snapped back in. Now my yellow cartridge, I've already changed the chip on it before we started. But again, I will show the process of adding this ink. And I've already had my syringe ready. I'm going to put this back here again, just to kind of block any air from getting in. And again, tilt to the side, syringe pointed, it does touch the bottom. So let's let it stop. Not pushing it through so it doesn't poke the bottom here, but slowly adding some more ink. Pushing it slowly, not forcing it. Okay. There we go. Now this one does not look like it will take the full, and I will stop it there. Looks like it is pretty full there. We will add the rest of this ink back to the cartridge. Going to put this down slightly for a second. Okay. Adding now this one. Oh, don't beat me up. I am mixing inks here, so please don't beat me up. But I gotta stop saying that too. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna put this ink back here into its bottle and close this back up. And the yellow is a little bit easier to see. I'm gonna seal this back up real quick. The yellow is easier to see, pretty full, and you really don't see any air bubbles in there. Yeah, maybe let's try to prime it anyway. Like we might have one little bubble in there that I want to make sure doesn't cause us any damage. So again, we're going to take the syringe off. And we're going to prime. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to put this ink back here into its bottle and close this back up. And the yellow is a little bit easier to see. I'm going to seal this back up real quick. The yellow is easier to see, pretty full, and you really don't see any air bubbles in there. Yeah, maybe let's try to prime it anyway. Like we might have one little bubble in there that I want to make sure doesn't cause us any damage. So again, we're going to take the syringe off. And we're going to prime. We are going to prime. Again, let me cover this hole up here. And we're going to pull slowly. I pulled, some of the ink did come back up. The air is vacuuming itself. It pulled itself right back. So we're pretty good there. Release, took the air out. And we're gonna close it back up. Take that yellow rubber piece, put it right back in the hole. And we are good to go. We're gonna put this back into our printer. And we're gonna close up. Now, And because, ooh, excuse me, there we go. Because it is just regular, the chip is just for the computer. It just reads naturally. It already does a, like a print head clean at the same time as I change it. So I don't have to do one myself. And then once it's ready, it will let me know and I'll be able to print as normal. I don't have to do anything else. That is the complete finish to changing the ink, changing the chip on the ink, and changing the ink itself inside, or adding the ink inside the printer. The only thing that I will say is with the 7820, if you do a lot of custom jobs, it can become costly to have to keep buying a new ink pack to have to get the chip. At this point, I am looking to upgrade and invest into one of the newer, like the Echo tanks there. The Echo tanks, you just put the ink right in. There are no more refillable cartridges. There are no more having to buy chips. You just put the ink literally right into the tank and it prints from there. So I am looking to upgrade, and I am looking to get away from getting the chips. Now, because I am having to buy, like, spend $30 to $70 every few weeks when I have to do a custom, or I'm looking to do an all over shirt or something like that. So just keep that in mind when you are looking to get yourself a printer, and to use and to do sublimation. You know, invest in yourself. Go ahead and get that that Echo tank first off if you can, rather than starting with one of the workforces. Not a problem with the workforce. I love my workforce, but at this stage and at this place now where I'm at in sublimation, I'm ready to go ahead and to do and get me a newer printer. And so just think about that when you go ahead and start your process. But again, I love my printer. I'm not going to complain about it. It prints perfectly. It's not a problem of the printing. It's just the process of, or the cost that it becomes of having to just replace that chip over and over, because there isn't a refillable cartridge that has a reusable chip on it as of yet. Anyway, I do thank you for watching today. Again, Crafty Kita, we did a replacing on the Epson Workforce 7820 as well as 7840. It's the same process, the same as that printer. One just has a larger format than the other. Anyway, it was a pleasure seeing y'all today, and I hope you have a blessed weekend. Bye-bye.